Hello learners, this is Habiba with another new topic from Pedagogy of Social Sciences. Social sciences as an integrating area of study, context and concerns, with the subtopic contributions of some eminent social scientists. Today we are going to learn about Christopher Columbus. Introduction. Christopher Columbus was born between 31st October 1450 and 30th October 1451, Geneva. He was an Italian explorer, navigator, colonizer and citizen of the Republic of Geneva, now part of modern Italy. His father was Domenico Colombo, a middle-class wool weaver who worked both in Geneva and Savona and who also owned a cheese stand at which young Christopher worked as a helper. Christopher's mother was Susanna Fontana Rossa. Bartolomeo, Giovanni Pellegrino and Giacomo were his brothers. Bartolomeo worked in a cartography, the art and science of graphically representing a geographical area, workshop in Lisbon for at least part of his adulthood. He also had a sister named Bianchi-Netta. Under the auspices of the Catholic monarchs of Spain, he completed 4 voyages across the Atlantic Ocean. Those voyages and his efforts to establish permanent settlements on the island of Hispaniola initiated the Spanish colonization of the New World. Though Columbus was not the first European explorer to reach the Americas, having been preceded by the Norse expedition led by Leif Erikson in the 11th century, his voyages led to the first lasting European contact with the Americas, inaugurating a period of European exploration, conquest, and colonization that lasted for several centuries. Under the Mongol Empire's hegemony over Asia, the Pax Mongolica or Mongol peace, Europeans had long enjoyed a safe land passage, the Silk Road to India, the Indies, a far larger region than modern India, and China, which were sources of valuable goods such as spices and silk. With the fall of Constantinople to the Ottoman Turks in 1453, the land route to Asia became much more difficult and dangerous. Portuguese navigators tried to find a sea way to Asia. Now let's understand the voyages of Christopher Columbus. Between 1492 and 1503, Columbus completed 4 round-trip voyages between Spain and the Americas, all of them under the sponsorship of the Crown of Castile. These voyages marked the beginning of the European exploration and colonization of the American continents and are thus of enormous significance in Western history. The Italian navigator Columbus started his voyage from Spain to reveal the unknown westward passage to the east. Though his reason for the voyage was to find a westward passage to reach Asia, as he said, but actually his motive was to reach India and steal its wealth as he was aware of it. The enormous wealth of gold, pearls and spices in India fascinated Christopher Columbus towards it. Now let's understand the first voyage. On the evening of 3rd August 1492, Columbus departed from Palos de la Frontera with 3 ships. Columbus first sailed to the Canary Islands, which belonged to Castile, where he restocked the provisions and made repairs. Based on primary accounts and based on what one would expect based on the geographic positions of the islands given Columbus Venture's course, the prime candidates are San Salvador Island, so named in 1925 on the theory that it was Columbus San Salvador, Semana Cay and Plana Cays. The indigenous people he encountered, the Lucavan, Taino and Arawak, were peaceful and friendly. Noting their gold ear ornaments, Columbus took some of the Arawaks prisoner and insisted that they guide him to the source of the gold. From the entry in his journal of 12th October 1492, in which he wrote of them, "Many of the men I have seen have scars on their bodies, and when I made signs to them to find out how this happened, they indicated that people from other nearby islands come to San Salvador to capture them. They defend themselves the best they can. I believe that people from the mainland come here to take them as slaves. they ought to make good and skilled servants, for they repeat very quickly whatever we say to them. I think they can very easily be made Christians, for they seem to have no religion. If it pleases our Lord, I will take 6 of them to your Highness when I depart, in order that they may learn our language. Columbus also explored the northeast coast of Cuba, where he landed on 28th October. On 13th January 1493, Columbus made his last stop of this voyage in the New World. He landed on the Bay of Rincon in the northeastern border of the Samana Peninsula. Columbus crossed the Bar of Salts and entered the harbor of Palos on 15th March 1493. Word of his finding new lands rapidly spread throughout Europe. Now let's see second voyage. Columbus left the port of Cadiz on 24 September 1493 with a fleet of 17 ships carrying 1,200 men and the supplies to establish permanent colonies in the New World. Michele da Cuneo, Columbus' childhood friend from Savona, sailed with Columbus during the second voyage and wrote, "In my opinion, since Genoa was Genoa, there was never born a man so well equipped and expert in the art of navigation as the said Lord Admiral." Columbus named the small island of Saona to honor Michele da Cuneo, his friend from Savona. On 22nd November, Columbus returned to Hispaniola, where he intended to visit the fort of La Navidad, built during his first voyage and located on the northern coast of Haiti. Columbus found the fort in ruins destroyed by the native Taino people. Among the ruins were the corpses of 11 of the 39 Spaniards who had stayed behind as the first colonists in the New World. Columbus then sailed more than 100 kilometers eastwards along the northern coast of Hispaniola, establishing a new settlement, which he called La Isabela in the present-day Dominican Republic. However, La Isabela proved to be poorly located and the settlement was short-lived. Now let's see the third voyage. On 30th May 1498, Columbus left with 6 ships from San Lucar, Spain, for his third trip to the New World. Columbus led his fleet to the Portuguese island of Porto Santo, his wife's native land. He then sailed to Madeira and spent some time there with the Portuguese captain João Goncalves da Câmara before sailing to the Canary Islands and Cape Verde. As he crossed the Atlantic, Columbus discovered that the angle between north as indicated by a magnetic compass and north as measured by the position of the pole star changed with his position, a phenomenon now known as compass variation. He would later use his previous measurements of the compass variation to adjust his reckoning. As he sailed the Gulf of Paria, he observed the diurnal rotation of the pole star in the sky, which he erroneously interpreted as evidence that the earth was not perfectly spherical, but rather bulged out like a pier around the new-found continent. In 1500, the crown had him removed as governor, arrested and transported in chains to Spain. He was eventually freed and allowed to return to the New World, but not as governor. Now let's see the last, fourth voyage. Columbus made a fourth voyage nominally in search of the Strait of Malacca to the Indian Ocean. Accompanied by his brother Bartholomew and his 13-year-old son Fernando, he left Cadiz on 11th May 1502. On 15th June, they landed at Carbet on the island of Martinica. After a brief stop at Jamaica, Columbus sailed to Central America, arriving at Guyana, Isla de Pinos in the Bay Islands off the coast of Honduras on 30th July. On 5th December 1502, Columbus and his crew found themselves in a storm unlike any they had ever experienced. In his journal, Columbus writes, "For 9 days I was as one lost without hope of life. Ice never beheld the sea so angry, so high, so covered with foam. The wind not only prevented our progress, but offered no opportunity to run behind any headland for shelter. Hence we were forced to keep out in this bloody ocean, seething like a pot on a hot fire. Never did the sky look more terrible. For one whole day and night it blazed like a furnace, and the lightning broke with such violence that each time I wondered if it had carried off my spars and sails. The flashes came with such fury and frightfulness that we all thought that the ship would be blasted. All this time the water never ceased to fall from the sky. I do not say it rained, for it was like another deluge. The men were so worn out that they longed for death to end their dreadful suffering." In Panama, Columbus learned from the knob of gold and a strait to another ocean, but was told by local leader Quibian not to go past a certain point down the river. After much exploration in January 1503, he established a garrison at the mouth of the Beelan River. For 1 year, Columbus and his men remained stranded on Jamaica. Columbus and his men arrived in Sanlúcar, Spain on 7th November 1504. Now let's understand his contributions. While Columbus had always given the conversion of non-believers as one reason for his explorations, he grew increasingly religious in his later years, probably with the assistance of his son Diego and his friend the Carthusian monk Gaspar Gorricchio. Columbus produced 2 books during his later years. A book of privileges in the year 1502, detailing and documenting the rewards from the Spanish crown to which he believed he and his heirs were entitled, and a book of prophecies 1505, in which he considered his achievements as an explorer but a fulfillment of Bible prophecy in the context of Christian eschatology, the part of theology concerned with death, judgment, and the final destiny of the soul and of humankind. Now come to the conclusion. During a violent storm on his first return voyage, Columbus, then approximately 41, suffered an attack of what was believed at the time to be gout. In subsequent years, he was plagued with what was thought to be influenza and other fevers, bleeding from the eyes, and prolonged attacks of gout. The suspected attacks increased in duration and severity, sometimes leaving Columbus bedridden for months at a time, and culminated in his death 14 years later. It seems likely that Columbus acquired a reactive arthritis from food poisoning on one of his ocean voyages because of poor sanitation and improper food preparation, writes Dr. Frank C. Ornett, a rheumatologist and professor of internal medicine, pathology, and laboratory medicine, the University of Texas Medical School at Houston. On 20th May 1506, aged probably 54, Columbus died in Valladolid, Spain. Now let's recapitulate about Christopher Columbus. He landed in the Bahamas, sailed the ocean, and tried to find new routes. He was a hero actually. He saw Indians also, and he used a compass and stars to guide him, and he was a brave sailor, map maker. So we conclude that he was a great inspiration to the whole world. Thanks for your attention and time. As motivation, please do like, share, subscribe, and comment below. Thank you once again. Happy learning.